So about myself, I'm a filmmaker and screenwriter, and I also teach screenwriting in Finland, in Tampere University of Applied Sciences, and I'm also doctoral student in Aalto University. And my topic is screenwriting pedagogy. It's very much based onto my own experiences and my own observations. I have been teaching around over 20 years screenwriting, and what I'm talking about, this is the same presentation I gave in Vienna last September. Romana was there as well, my topic is the importance of writers' inner emotional discoveries in understanding the tools of screenwriting. My point is that, which I explain later on, that, and it's also a little bit based on to my own experiences, that when I was taught screenwriting a long time ago when I was in film school, it was very hard somehow to adopt the tools of screenwriting, dramaturgy, and so on, to understand them. And later on, after few key kind of moments, I started to realize the point of the dramaturgy and so on. But I'm going to explain that a little bit more later on. So this is my topic, to expand the screenwriting curriculum to include teaching techniques on how film ideas are derived from students' own life experiences, emotional memories, and insights. And the research data I have been using, it's based on the qualitative research materials which I have been collecting from several screenwriting workshops in 2 film schools in Finland and Belgium, in Aalto University and in RITS, Royal Institute of Theatre, Cinema and Sound, I think it was the name, in Brussels. And I'm proposing that the screenwriting teachers should first and foremost guide students towards the private sources of the individual experiences and memories, and in that way highlighting the unique potential and originality. And well, we all have read, and we are all the time reading different screenwriting guidebooks, and quite many of them actually are giving that same advice, that we should kind of follow our own inner voice when we are writing. And for example, Michael Hawke, in his book Writing Screenplays That Sells, is saying that write about what you know. But it's interesting that in the next sentence he is also issuing a warning that there is a real danger in writing from personal experience, because most of us do not have lives that are exciting or interesting. So what is he suggesting actually? And this is something which also might confuse the students who are reading these books many times, that because they really want to learn, and what does this mean? That on the other hand, you should write about what you know, but there's also this kind of an interesting warning. So this is, of course, what he's suggesting and what he's talking about. That he's suggesting that we all should use our own personal knowledge and experience as a basis for a fictional story concept that gives us the freedom to meet all the criteria of an effective screenplay. And this is something what professional screenwriters are, of course, doing all the time, more or less. The first time around over 20 years ago when I was giving my first lecture in screenwriting, there were it started to there were certain issues that started to trouble me. They were kind of repeating all the time. So that, for example, that many times the students were kind of offering ideas which were kind of cheap copies of the films they had already seen somewhere. And then there was another thing which was very easy to feel in the it was there in the atmosphere in the classroom, that the students all the time, and this is something which I remember also from my own studies, that the students have a kind of a competition between them, that who has got a better idea for a film. And this competition kind of many times it seems that it corrupts the ideas which I don't know how actually to put it, but it's they are not sincere enough sometimes with the ideas which they are presenting. And this is, of course, the main one of the main problems which occurs, because that they don't. It seems that many times they don't have any connection to their characters, and of course, because if they are bringing ideas which are copies from the films they have seen, the characters very often are also too distant from their own experiences. They don't know the characters. They are only kind of stereotypes from other movies. And some of them, it seems that, and they actually have been later on telling that they feel that the dramaturgy, the teacher is trying to explain to them that the dramaturgy is limiting their artistic freedom. And there was one student, actually, I can later on, when we have a discussion, I can quote her, how she put it, that in the, actually, that in her first year in her studies, she didn't understand the point of the dramaturgy and screenwriting tools, and she didn't know why, but she instinctively she started to rebel against them for some reason. And I remember that from my own studies that I had the same feeling, because it was difficult for me to understand the dramaturgy and so on, which teachers were trying to explain to me, because I was too stuck to my idea and the characters I had invented somehow. But I also had the same problem, that the characters were too far from my own life experiences. I didn't really know the characters. So among the students, there's also this question that what is a good good and original idea? And this is also a problem for the teacher, for me as a teacher as well, that what is a good and original idea, and how to find it, and how to build the characters the audience can relate, and how to write compelling scenes. And this is the next one is, of course, the most important, that how we can, as a teachers, teach these things which are mentioned here above, that what is a good idea, how do we kind of measure what is a good idea, and how to build characters and create compelling scenes. So the main question actually is that what is original? So and it was funny that actually in Finnish language we have the same, pretty much the same word, but when we are looking at the word original, I think the origin of the word of the original is that it means that, tell me if I'm wrong, but for me it means that it is something which has origin somewhere. It is rooted to somewhere already. And very often we think that the word original means, so this is something maybe we can discuss about, but this is how I have interpreted this word. And because I had that problem with my students, that I kind of wanted to help them to find original ideas where they know the characters and where the stories are taking place, that they are familiar with the world of the stories. I started to kind of remind my own learning experiences in the film school. So actually, because it was an art school, let's take this away. The first year, there was, because it was an art school, there was a lot also, of course, a lecture of morphology, and there was a great old teacher, Severi Parko, older man, who one day asked us, all the students, to draw and write stories, create a kind of a map of our own emotional history. And I found this assignment very rewarding. I executed it enthusiastically. And another lecture was a workshop which was conducted by Krzysztof Kieslowski, the former well-known Polish director, who visited our school and ran a special workshop at our school. But for me, this was very special, because actually I didn't attend that workshop at all. I was shooting scenes somewhere in northern Finland. But this workshop had a huge impact among my fellow students. And what Kieslowski was doing, it was 2 weeks workshop. There were around 10-15 students there. And what he did was that he asked all the students to bring 3 turning points of their lives to the classroom and share it with the other students. And then what they did was that they only discussed about those experiences. And afterwards, he gave advices separately to each of the students, that which of those stories they were presenting were vital as a film, for example, a short film or graduation film. And my third learning experience was when I was writing my first long feature film, because the story was taking place. It was located to my old hometown where I was born in northern Finland, which I actually hated a lot when I was young. And but when I started to write the story, which took place in that city, and I also was using those characters from my neighborhood a little bit, and I started to kind of see the comedy and the beauty of those characters and that place when I was writing. The writing process itself helped me to understand the dramaturgy, and of course I then the story is a fiction, but there were a lot of things which were rooted to that place and to those characters which I was using. And when I was teaching, my students, this was, I started the first lecture by having a presentation of my own life experience, and this is the kind of a map. I don't tell you the my 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 stories. If you would have more time, I could do that. But I created. I told them anecdotes and stories about from my own life experiences, what I have seen, moments, emotional moments, and so on. And I call that my own story universe. And what kinds of stories there were, they didn't need to be completed stories every time. But for example, I explained them the environment, my hometown in northern Finland, which I hated, and what kind of city it was, which turned out to be a very interesting environment, actually, film-wise, and emotional images, moments when I had seen, for example, the Northern Lights, because I was living in the countryside. I saw the Northern Lights, and I also heard what kind of sound they were making, because they were so silent, actually. And original characters, my mother and father, original conflicts, for example, because I had three older brothers, there were several conflicting uh, situations with them, and of course, love stories, emotional moments, and also dreams, big dreams. And here are what I mean. Big dreams are dreams I had been seeing, which I saw when I was sleeping, of course. I call them big dreams as such a dreams which I had seen in some point of my life, which I remember the whole of my life. Sometimes they can be useful and so on. And there was one moment when I was hit by lightning, and I actually made later on, I made a documentary about it and so on. But these kind of stories I told them, and then I asked them to do the same to the rest of the class, and they had the following day they had their own presentations. They had to present have the presentation of their own story universes, and then we started to go further. They for example, only structured some scenes. They didn't need to think about the completed story on that point of the course, the workshop. Only some scenes, and we discussed about the conflicts they were presenting, and what kind of story they could probably create by using those characters and those conflicts, and what is the morale of that story, and so on. And then they had to start to structure synopsises and start to rewrite and create a step outline, and later on write a first draft and start to rewrite, and so on. This was the structure of the workshop. And what I also realized, that what I was doing, that maybe some of you are already familiar with this Kolb's experiential learning model, which he created in 1984, which is this kind of a recycling model where we start from experience, and of course he is meaning here that with the experience that the students has to do something, try to do something first, and then one is observing how did he or she kind of what they were doing, and then they have to reflect what they have been doing, making sense of what happened, and then they have to make plans again how they and do it again, actually start from the experience again, and so on. And for me, this is what is actually rewriting very much. So that what we are doing when we are rewriting, that we complete the first draft, and then we observe, and we are reflecting it, what kind of changes we need to do for the story, and plan the next step, and start it again. And in teaching, of course, this means that in the experience where we started was the one particular experience the student picked themselves, and we started to the same cycling. I call it recycling, actually, because we are recycling the experience and turning them to interesting stories. And this is one picture from one of my workshops. The student, this is from Belgium. The student has been drawing and writing the most important and memorable moments from his life, and he has this presentation to the other students. And of course, this is not very easy task for some of the students. There are a lot of emotional barriers they have to cross. It demands involvement. The students have to be able to reflect not only their own stories, but also the other student stories, and they have to be able to use or develop analytical skills, and later of course, that they can conceptualize the experiences to stories. And also they have to develop decision making and problem solving skills to use new innovative ideas gained from the experiences. And also because I think that screenwriting is very much problem solving, and you have to be able to see the problems so that you are able to solve them. But you also have to be able to actually like the problems and sometimes love the problems you have with your script. And you have to have courage to recycle your your own life experiences.